Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. The conversations so far at the Health Forum have been incredibly valuable in painting a picture of how the pandemic has shifted the healthcare industry. Stefan Oelrich, member of the Board of Management and President of Pharmaceuticals for Bayer AG, joins us right now to talk about the level of collaboration between pharma and biotech companies and the new innovations and breakthrough technologies at the forefront of the biorevolution. Stefan, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
So my first question for you is more of a general question, just wanting to know what you think are the big trends that you're seeing in the healthcare space, and among those, what are the potential opportunities for investors?
Yeah, Stephanie, I think we're really witnessing right now an incredible surge in innovation. Some call it the biorevolution and compare it to the invention of the internet. So it's a really explosion of knowledge that we're seeing that is transforming healthcare, I think, at an unprecedented pace. These innovations include modalities such as cell and gene therapy, but of course also RNA technologies, as we've seen it in the pandemic with the new vaccines. Traditionally, some of the modalities that we use so far really fall short in adequately treating many of the diseases that we know, and some of the diseases that are much more rare. That is linked to the fact that either you can't really drug some of the proteins involved. Sometimes there are multifactorial origins of disease, and then there is, of course, these broken or damaged diseases. So diseases, genes that call genetically originated disease, and these can now be treated differently with some of these new cell and gene modalities that even allow us to now treat in a curative way, when before we were more treating symptoms. If you want to add one of the trends that I think we really have to watch out for on top of that is really digital healthcare applications and a different way of handling patients. Patients that typically see their physician once or twice a year through digital tracking and creating additional transparency around the overall longitudinal tracking of patients can lead to, I think, very different treatment and monitoring options for patients, and I believe also will change outcomes. So those could be certainly areas that investors want to take a look at, and we've seen some of recent IPOs and also mergers in the digital space, and of course the cell and gene space is really heating up.
Right, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I'm just curious, specifically now, what would you say is Bayer's role in this, what we call biorevolution, and how are the breakthrough technologies that you're using manifesting in Bayer's pipeline?
Yeah, Stephanie, we had a busy 2020 during the pandemic also. Because we really came through with what we internally call our cell and gene therapy strategy. So we've built a dedicated business to that effect, and we've done so through some, what I believe, transformative acquisitions and also really important partnership deals that we've done in this space. To cut it short, we are focusing on four different areas, four different platforms that we're establishing. The first one is so-called gene augmentation. Gene augmentation, as exemplified through the acquisition of AskBio last year, which was ranked one of the largest acquisitions in the healthcare space in 2020. And there we target a whole array of diseases with this novel gene augmentation therapy, including also generating revenue from a contract manufacturing business that may sound not important to you, but in this space, that's the absolute bottleneck, how to produce this. And secondly, we've established a stem cell-based iPSC platform. iPSC stands for induced pluripotent stem cells. This is exemplified by the acquisition we made the prior year of Blue Rock Therapeutics. Here it is about programming cells into stem cells that can then differentiate into any cell in the human body. So you can effectively create a repair shop of any cell in your body. One of the breakthrough programs that we're targeting, and we're expecting the first patient to be dosed ever, is to inject cells into human brains to treat Parkinson's, where these cells no longer exist in human brains to produce dopamine, and now we can do that. And then, last but not least, other than cell therapy and gene augmentation, we also we're about to establish a gene editing platform, which is sort of like the common denominator between all the different platforms, because it allows us to use the CRISPR-Cas technology and also the evolution and next generations of this technology to really enable most gene and cell therapies by altering these genes so that that we can get them back to work as they should. So all in all, this gives us an incredible boost in our pipeline. And just last year, we've added 6 clinical assets across multiple disease areas in this space, including Pompe disease, Parkinson's, I just mentioned, heart failure, hemophilia, but also more than 15 preclinical new medicines that we're studying and that we hope to go into patients very soon, and that we hope to continue to boost our pipeline year after year.
It's really exciting. We're really at a point where we're talking about curing the incurable. So I'm really excited to hear that about the cell and gene therapy space. And I'm wondering what should our audience know about pharma's ongoing transformation, which appears to be in full swing at this point?
I think what we're seeing is inside of the pharmaceutical industry and our own pharma here at Bayer is that we're really seeing an entry into modalities and an entry into new spaces like probably and especially our company traditionally we never ventured in. This was very much a reserved space for the biotech companies, and for us, we go beyond what has been our success factor in the past, which has been create these blockbusters like Eylea and Xarelto, which we're still maximizing until they reach end of their life. We're still right now also launching new potential blockbusters. In that same vein, in our case, it's we've announced to the markets this year that we're launching 3 new blockbuster products with finerenone, elinzanetant, and Nubeqa to treat renal failure, to treat hormone replacement for women in menopause, and to treat prostate cancer in man. We have another really exciting launch that we're doing together with Merck in heart failure with Verquvo. And the exciting thing here is in our own ongoing transformation that we're now having global rights to all these products, which gives us an unprecedented level of growth, especially given that for all the launch brands we have full rights to the US and to China. But then the real transforming thing is what I was just mentioning to you, is this establishment of this cell and gene therapy platform that we believe is going to really boost us in the second half of this decade beyond all of these activities that we're already developing now. So that will help us to really break new frontiers, if you like. Add digitalization, which is an area that we're also engaged in creating new solutions to treat chronically ill people through the help of digital platforms. And I think we have a very healthy mix.
Wonderful. Well, and I wanted to talk a little bit about something you and I have spoken about in the past. And I also spoke with Bayer CEO Werner Baumann last week about this. And that is Bayer Pharma's transformation gaining significant momentum through external innovation and collaboration. And just wondering, how has collaboration evolved in your view since the pandemic, and also what learnings will help us keep advancing medical research and innovation based on what we've learned from the pandemic?
That's a really good question. I think the pandemic has given us a really an unprecedented level of multilateral collaboration between all the different players in our sector. I think that has given us an incredible amount of momentum, and that leads obviously to significant achievements and innovation, such as the record time development of the new vaccines. I mean, it's impressive how fast science has progressed. And this is not just in the private sector, it's also interacting with people in the public sector, policymakers, regulators. It's unprecedented, and I've never seen anything like that in my lifetime. I can tell you the interaction with regulators, especially, have moved from being very much tit for tat to a live interaction on the go, and what took years before is now done in weeks or months. So it's really impressive. I think this is the way, and this should also be one of the learning in all of this, that we've learned to trust each other more, to work much more closely with each other, and I hope we can keep some of this momentum as we move forward. I mean, when you think about COVID as the sort of like the reason for this level of collaboration, think about all the diseases that are out there that are either not treatable or that require much better treatments. I'm thinking, of course, of cancer, but think of all the chronic diseases that are the number one killer today still in our society is cardiovascular disease. I mean, many more people die from heart attack and cardiovascular disease than from any other disease in the world. So collaboration, I hope, is here to stay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that if you think that this really is the start of a new era for the pharmaceutical industry in terms of how competitors view each other. Do they feel that the relationship just needs to change to move things forward in terms of global health?
You know, I think in our sector, at least on the private side, we've always had a healthy balance between collaboration and competitiveness. Mm-hmm. I think that will stay. I think the difference here that we're seeing is that things are going so much faster, especially with this biorevolution that I mentioned in the beginning. So I think the knowledge gain that we're getting on the science side is just going faster, and everyone needs to keep up and catch up with that speed that we're seeing in all of this. And what I've seen in a crisis, if it's a true crisis, then I think there are no competitive boundaries. We've seen then in that crisis situation us stand together as one across the board and across the sectors. As we go to some level of normal life afterwards, I think there's going to still be a healthy amount of competition that will be left, and I think that's good because that's ultimately the lifeblood of innovation, is also competing for the best ideas. And I think we're going to see this, and we have so many pressing public health challenges that I hope those good ideas will prevail. Some of them in these newly gained partnerships, and some of them still in the good old way of competing with each other.
Great. Well, coming back to Bayer's transformation, I just am curious. You've clearly explained what the key priorities are moving forward, but I'm wondering why you're so confident that what you're doing sets Bayer up for sustainable growth and long-term success in the life sciences.
Yeah, I mean, we're really in a transformation moment here in our pharmaceutical business. I do remember when I joined 2.5 years ago, many people asked me, why are you going there with that pipeline and loss of exclusivity looming of the two big brands? And I said, well, there is time, and I think we've really made good use of the time, and have a very clear strategy going forward, and have also now assembled some really important cornerstones to our new strategy. I was talking about maximizing some of the existing assets, our key medicines, Xarelto, Eylea, over the next few years. But what we're seeing now, I think there are three reasons to clearly see why we're going to be strong going forward. First, it's the launch of the new products. With finerenone, elinzanetant, and Nubeqa, we're really launching three clear blockbuster brands. And as I was saying, we're sort of like repairing the current regional imbalance that we have in our portfolio, because we have global rights to all of these products. If we had global rights already today to Xarelto and Eylea, we would clearly be a top 10 pharma company, like we are in all those markets where we are active. The second thing is really this new industry-leading cell and gene therapy platform that we've built with multiple clinical and preclinical assets, and a truly impressively growing pipeline. We continue to further invest in other potential breakthrough technologies, and also I mentioned the buildup of digital health solutions. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, I feel really confident in what we're doing on the oncology side. You know, any one of the top global pharmaceutical players is strong in oncology, and I think we have all the elements now to be a successful oncology player. We have a strong actual current portfolio, especially with Nubeqa, which I think is going to be significantly above 1 billion in sales, and we're adding to it. We signed some really interesting licensing deals in the area of CAR T, so that we're going into these new modalities there in oncology too. And then there are some really exciting things on the horizon, also in our own mid-stage pipeline. So I feel that on the oncology side, we're going to really, really make a difference compared to the past. So all in all, I think we're really set up for long-term success here.
Wonderful. Well, we are getting a few questions in from the audience, some of which you've sort of touched on already. But Kathleen is asking, how have your views on collaboration with new partners for Bayer changed in the past year?
I've never had so much interaction especially with the policymakers and with regulators. I tell you, this morning, I was talking to, without going into details, but with government officials. They're obviously asking a lot about availability of vaccine. You know, we have closed a deal where we have an alliance with CureVac, which is one of the upcoming mRNA vaccines. So there's a constant exchange now around COVID with policymakers, and the same holds true of industry around this topic, especially when it comes to making sure that low and middle income countries also get access to the new innovations, because we're very often talking about ourselves, especially with a focus on Europe and on the United States. And let's not forget, this planet has 8 billion inhabitants, and they all have a right and are entitled to get access to novel medicines. And that's obviously also an area of focus and concern. So that's an area. And I could go on. It's been a very, very busy year. So people say that 2020, well, how could you handle this? You can't travel, you're all put. Well, we're making good use of this video conferencing technology, and it allows us to travel from one continent to the other just within an hour.
Yeah, it actually makes things easier in a lot of ways, I would say.
It does.
We have a question about someone is wanting to know about Bayer's future in the US when it comes to oncology and WHC in the next 5 years.
Yeah. So I'd not manage. WHC stands for Women's Healthcare. We are globally the leader in contraception, especially in long-acting contraception. So this has always been a focus area, especially for us in the US. And we're clearly committed to that also moving forward. The acquisition of the company Candy with the lead compound elinzanetant will give us, besides our strong platform on long-acting contraception, will give us a very important new medicine. It's going to be a truly unique opportunity for women in menopause to get a solution that is hormone-free, that will deal with their symptoms. I think this is a real breakthrough, and I'm sure that many women, as they listen to this, will say, yes, he's absolutely right. If there was a solution for me to deal with night sweats, with symptoms, with other symptoms, with our inability to fall asleep during my menopause, and that without hormones, that would be a breakthrough. So yes, women's healthcare will continue to be an area of focus for us. And oncology, I mentioned Nubeqa. I mentioned some of the licensing. Sorry for that. I mentioned some of the licensing deals that we made in the CAR-T area with Atara. We have other important products such as Vitrakvi, which is the first ever product to be approved across multiple tumors in multiple tissues, to be effective when you have a certain so-called NTRK fusion, which is a rare condition, but it really gives phenomenal results there. So I think we're talking of a really attractive oncology platform. Add to that our bread and butter, if I may say so, older products to treat colorectal cancer in an advanced stage, or also renal cancer in an advanced case with regorafenib and sorafenib, to more established drugs in to treat cancer. So we're really I think speaking from a good place, and there is more to come.
Great. One question about something you touched on earlier, which is the digitalization of healthcare, and just if you could talk a little bit more about that, and I know Bayer is fully committed to it. What is Bayer's plan for that?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. So we look at digital as an incredible leverage point when it comes to the future of health. How so? When you think about how patient care is happening today, then especially in chronic disease such as cardiovascular or diabetes, but also in long-term treatment of cancer, we see that patients are truly underserved because they only see their physician once or twice a year, typically 2 to 3 minutes in the office to renew a prescription. When in reality today, there are ways, like we all do. I mean, many of us wear these devices that track vitals 24/7. If you capture these data points and create insights out of data, if you take 24/7 blood glucose monitoring and create insights out of that data, and you put it all on one platform, then all of a sudden you can support a patient that typically gets medical advice twice a year, 24/7 a day. First through intelligent AI solutions, then through active coaching, and ultimately by referring them back to their treating physician, which helps not only to lead a healthier life, it will help prevent bad outcome. Which also is costly to the overall healthcare system. So I think there's tremendous opportunity in leveraging some of these technologies to create better patient outcome and create savings. I could add to that when you take data at a different level and aggregate the, let's say, disease data across the board and create real world evidence by aggregating that data over a longer period of time, you can create more effective treatment pathways that today our industry and physicians pretty much rely on the classic clinical trial designs and the insights that they get from those. you can think as we move forward to digitalize those things as well. Think about a study. When you study today a new cardiovascular medicine, you have to have one arm of the study where you put your active population in that is studied with a new medicine, and then you have a second arm where you make them take a placebo, and then you want to compare those two to determine whether a new medicine is more efficacious. Now, you could think about eliminating the placebo arm and replacing it with a digital arm, because that data should be out there and comparable to your new arm. That would effectively have clinical development costs in two, which would allow for better drug prices if pharmaceutical companies were to spend much less on drug development, for example. So all of those are levers that we're exploring and also applying as we move forward across our value chain, including the creation of new tools in digital.
Great. Well, I think we have time for just one more question, and that is, you spoke about the innovation that's being made in the treatment of Parkinson's disease, which is really exciting. Are there other diseases that you think we have a chance of treating or curing in the next 10 years?
That is an excellent question. So you can almost think of any disease, especially those where you need to replace defective cells into healthy cells. Think about a heart attack. When part of your heart muscle dies, there's no reason to believe that in the future we cannot replace those cells with healthy tissue. Think about what we just discussed on Parkinson's. If you can replace neurons in the human brain with new ones, and when we talk about the area that produces the dopamine, which is the one thing that doesn't work in the Parkinson patient and that controls all of your motor function, if we can do that, then you could also think that we could repair other type of neurons in the human body. Think about diseases like ALS, for example. Think about any neurodegenerative disease. You could help by recreating new neurons. Now, neurons in the human body grow until the age of 16, and then you're done. From there, it goes downwards. Think about all the opportunity that could come from actually being able to create or offer you new cells. So any regenerative thing in your body, you could start to treat. One of the exciting therapeutic areas that I see is, for example, organ replacement. You can grow organs in a very different way, or you can grow them new. Sounds like science fiction to some, but it's very promising now to many that are waiting on a donor list for a donor organ. Those are things that will be possible in the future. You could, with that same technology, you could think that you could cure diabetes. When your pancreas, which produces your insulin, no longer works, you normally have to give insulin to the human body. Now you could think that you inject just newly created pancreas cells or pancreas isolates into the human bloodstream that will create your own insulin without adding insulin as you know it through a syringe or through an auto-injector. And I could go on and on. We can probably it's almost like an S curve that's taking off right now in terms of what we will be able to treat and cure going forward. So I am lucky, and Stephanie, so are you, that we will probably be the generation that will most benefit from some of these advances that are coming up. And I'm super excited to say that we at Bayer play a really important role in bringing some of these breakthroughs to life.
Well, thank you, Stefan. I am very excited to be a part of the breakthroughs that are happening. And I think we're out of time. We could take a few more questions, but I think the main stage session is about to begin. So I just wanted to thank you so much, Stefan, for joining this discussion, and to our audience. I hope you found it as valuable as I did. As I said, the session on the main stage is about to begin, and we look forward to catching up with you in the event networking later on. So thank you so much, Stefan.
Thank you, Stephanie. It was my pleasure.